All right, it's that time of year, time for my oil and gas predictions for 2023. But before we get into that, let's recap what I got right and what I got wrong last year. So number one for last year, global energy shortage. Absolutely nailed that one. Number two, fertilizer shortage. Yep, nailed that one. Number three, combo plants. I got that one wrong. Thought there'd be a lot more construction of refineries and combo plants, but because of the political unrest and supply chain issues, that didn't happen. Number four, supply chain issues. I nailed that one. Number five, inflation. Got that one right. Number six, the beginning of a super cycle. Got that one right. Number seven, lack of skilled labor. I got that one right. Number eight, energy theft. I got that one right. Number nine, a changing consumer fuel mix. I'm gonna call that one a draw. I thought there'd be a lot more electrical vehicles sold in 2022 and the need for more recharging stations, but there was a constraint on the supplies needed to build electric vehicles, so it didn't grow as fast as I thought it would. Then number 10, the chance to change negative public perception. I absolutely got that one right. If you look at what I did last year, I got 80% of those predictions correct, which is much better than my average. I've been doing this for 9 years now, and my average is about 74%. If you want to check out the past predictions, there'll be links in the actual show notes going all the way back to 2014. Before we get into my predictions 2023, let's go through my pricing, what I think prices will be for 2023. Brent will average about $102 a barrel. WTI will average $95 a barrel. Natural gas will go for $7.05 for million British thermal units. But it's a mess to try to predict this. Between the EU and G7 sanctions on Russia, China opening up, OPEC's inability to increase production and the end of the SPR release, and the need to buy the crude oil to fill the SPR back up, it is hard to get a line of sight on any of this. All right, so let's get into my predictions for 2023. Number one, peak people. If you look at the world's population growth, it's still growing, but the growth percentage is slowing down. We're coming to the top of that bell curve. Certain countries like China for years had a one child per couple, literally government mandated order. Look here in the U.S., birth rates are really low, and there's some states in the U.S. like the Upper East Coast where there's such a disparity between the number of new births and the number of people that are dying. That if the trend continues in another 60 or 70 years, there's going to be nobody to live in those states, right? So for a long time, the world was worried about population growth, too many people that for Earth support. And I think in 2023, you're starting to see that peak people come in, which means somewhere in the future, the problem is going to be that we don't have enough people on the planet. That's a strange one to think about. Number two prediction for next year, major conflict. And I hope I'm really wrong about this. But between what's going on between China and Taiwan, Iran and Israel, Russia and Ukraine, and then the world's social unrest, food and energy shortages, high prices, everybody's on the edge right now. And with these hot spots around the world geopolitically, all it takes is somebody to make a mistake, one soldier to pull the trigger when he shouldn't, somebody to push a guided missile button when they shouldn't, and we're going to have a major conflict. Not a world war, but a major conflict. Now, if that happens, you're going to see prices of crude spike to $120, maybe even $150 a barrel. And like I said, I really hope that doesn't happen. Number three prediction for 2023, birth of the mega majors. So for years, Exxon and Chevron, Shell and BP were all neck and neck competitors. Well, for the last couple of years, they've kind of split up on their strategies. So Exxon and Chevron are putting their returns and their capital back into hydrocarbon projects. BP and Shell are doing taking their returns and their capital investing in renewable projects. And their shareholder value and their profits show the difference. Chevron and Exxon are doing so much better financially than BP and Shell because of that difference in strategy, which is allowing Chevron and Exxon to grow. And they're going to grow much bigger than BP and Shell. And as they grow bigger, they're going to have more capital to deploy, more reach, more leverage, both with the governments and with vendors, which is giving them even more competitive advantage against BP and Shell. So I think you're seeing the birth of the mega majors. New term, I should patent it probably. Next thing for predictions for 2023, carbon capture and storage. Regardless of what you think about carbon dioxide, it doesn't matter. There's business here, and there's two big pieces of it. Number one is the world's governments are funding carbon capture and storage, carbon taxes, carbon caps, all this stuff, which means that there's government money to fund this sort of stuff, and companies are taking advantage of this. Number two, carbon dioxide is actually a commercial product that you can make money on, whether there's government subsidies or not. So you're seeing all these projects going on where they're pulling CO2 out of the air, they're building the infrastructure like pipelines to move it around, they're storing the carbon dioxide, and then they're using it to do enhanced oil recovery. And so it used to be they had to buy that CO2 off the market for enhanced oil recovery. Now they're using government subsidies. It's genius, actually, and capturing the CO2, making money from the government, and then they're going to use it for enhanced oil recovery. So regardless of what you think about this, carbon capture and storage is going to be a big business starting in 2023. Then number 5, anti-renewable movement. The world's had enough. You're seeing people, companies, countries, right? Look at what's going on with the renewables, look at things like ESG, and then turn around and look at how expensive energy prices are, how expensive food prices are, the fact that it's causing social unrest, and they're going, you know what? Maybe renewables aren't the way to go, or maybe we shouldn't go as fast. So you can start seeing a pushback against renewables, and that's not a good thing. Our biggest problem in this world right now around energy is we've allowed it to become politicized. We need to disconnect politics with energy. The energy mix has always changed, it always will. Every energy source has an impact. Every energy source's impact can be mitigated, but by pushing renewables too fast, it's one of the main reasons the world's in energy shortage right now. And I think you can see a lot of people push back, which, like I said, is not a good thing, because it perpetuates the hydrocarbons versus renewables, the us versus you type of butting heads, which isn't good for anybody. We need to recognize that all energy is good and that all can be used responsibly. Number 6. Unfortunately, the world's energy shortage will continue. Demand will continue to be larger than supply. You see in China starting to open up after COVID. You're seeing other economies pick back up, but we don't have the ability to get hydrocarbons back on the market to fund all this energy. And like I said, the renewables can't fill that gap either. So unfortunately, the world's energy shortage will continue during 2023. Then, number 7, unconventional shale growth will slow. Between capital discipline, focus on returns, debt repayments, supply chain constraints, and then our current administration here in the U.S. sending mixed signals to the industry, the shale growth is not going to boom like it did before. It will increase in size and it will grow, but that shale growth will be very slow. Which leads me to number 8. Offshore conventional oil will boom. You're seeing offshore projects pick back up all over the world. Even some deep water projects are picking back up, which are very expensive. And the reason is it's a much better return, and that has a much longer decline rate than the shale resources. So the world's in an energy shortage. There's money to be made off hydrocarbons, and offshore oil is going to boom because of that demand. Then, number 9 in the industry. For 2023, capital will be much easier to get. For the last few years, capital is really hard, especially for the smaller and independent operators around the world, because of ESG. And funds and companies were not putting money back into the oil and gas industry because they were worried about ESG pushback from activists, from shareholders. Well, what they've done is they've missed out on tremendous returns in 2022. And so they're seeing the amount of money they could have made that they missed out, and they're going, you know what, this ESG isn't something as important as I thought it was, versus me making a lot of money. So you can see much easier ways to get capital in the oil and gas industry for 2023. Then number 10. 2023 is going to be a record business year for the oil and gas industry. The other verticals will suffer. The world's economy will continue to slow down. The recession is going to get worse, but the oil and gas industry will be on fire for at least the next 8 to 12 years, right? Maybe even another 20 years, because we have to fuel the world, basically. So there you go. There are my 10 predictions for 2023. If you like this, do me a favor, share it with your friends. And if you have any suggestions or any input on what I said, let me know. I'd love to have that discussion with you. Hopefully this helped. We will see you next time.